Welcome to AMPEDCast, where we bring together the worlds of electronic dance music and storytelling. Get to know industry leaders and talent on the rise as we sit down with them to share their artist journey from behind the decks. Our community is one for artists and music lovers alike, so settle in and enjoy the experience.
Thank you all for coming out to sessions powered by AMPEDCast, where we share artist stories and, just hear their stories from behind the deck. So today, again, we have Kai Castro. So excited to have you here and hear about your adventures you've had this year. Yeah. You've been up to a lot. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Kai. I built my music career here in Austin, moved here in 2016, quickly became a resident at the original Kingdom, got off to a pretty quick start there. I think my third gig ever was a sold-out show with Lane 8, which was a lot of fun. Became kind of like the deep and progressive guy for Austin for many years until my sound started to evolve and change a little bit, and now I'm into like mid-130s, like UK house and Eurodance stuff, so higher energy, a little more ravey. And that is going well in Chicago so far, where I moved just on August 1st. So very recently moved to Chicago, loving it there. I'm sure Kay will ask me about that in a second.
Oh, we're going to dive in for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely love your sound. I'm a huge UK garage and like house music fan. And I didn't even know what UK garage was until I started listening to, I think it was something like, it was one of your sets. And I was like, yo, that is great music. And so then I learned more about the genre, and so I'm really excited to kind of deep dive into like how you got inspired and kind of went that route. So let's take it back a little bit. Like take it back as far as you want. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in music.
Yeah, I guess I did the very natural progression of loving one thing and then kind of evolving it to the next stage. So in high school, I found electronic music, really loved it, and said, I'm going to start collecting a bunch of this. So I built my library up, and then I had a big library and built off of like LimeWire downloads and other similarly legal means of acquisition. And then I realized, I got this big library. I could probably DJ a pretty sick party. So I got a small Tractor S4 controller, started DJing stuff in like my freshman year of college. And then once we had a couple parties under our belt, I was in a duo at the time, I realized it would be more fun to play my own music than to play other people's music, so I started producing. And that was in like 2015, so quite a while ago now.
That's incredible. Now, what was that experience like? Did Ableton is producing software. Was Ableton existing then, or how did you produce back then?
Yeah, Ableton predates my involvement in electronic music by quite a while.
Okay.
But so I have only ever learned Ableton for my DAW, digital audio workstation. I started on Ableton, love it. That's the only one I've ever used. So.
Amazing. Okay, so before we dive in more about your music, I want to talk about life as, someone who just recently moved out of a community into a new community, because I don't know if who's here, who's originally from Austin, who's here, who's a transplant from somewhere else. Okay, y'all know what it's like to make that move, and it's like, how the heck do I make friends? How do I start my life? So tell us about how was moving from Austin to Chicago for you?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Honestly, I feel like maybe I got off easy, but I had a few friends that were already there. And so I linked up with them and just went out as much as I could, tried to just get my face out there, shake some hands, give some hugs, and quickly found myself surrounded by a bunch of new friends, which was really nice. So when my students that I give lessons to ask about how do I get involved, how do I get my first gigs, my advice is always just get out there, find your tribe, make friends, and support people without expecting anything, and people will very, very quickly want to support you back if they see your good intentions. And so that's exactly what I did, and it paid off pretty quick. My first gig was exactly 2 months after I moved there at Spy Bar, which is one of the best venues in the entire country. And I've just been off to the races from there. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
That is incredible. I've heard of Spy Bar too, and I think I have friends that have played there. It's a pretty dope club there. So what is a piece of advice you would give? You kind of talked a little bit about advice, but diving in a bit deeper to someone who is a little shy, like especially artists, you know, if they're an introverted person, or how would they find that connect? What would be like the first step?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be like a charismatic like mastermind, right? I think if you want to distill it down to something like a little more businessy, I guess, you can kind of think about the idea of like adding value. Like, how do you add value to the people around you, to the community, to whoever you're trying to meet? And the easiest way that you can ever add value is to support, and support in places where other people are not supporting. So the easiest way to do that is like show up early. Like, there's this guy, Colin, that I've met in Chicago, and he's like a super, super like new DJ, but he is such an amazing supporter. And he was at my like first 3 gigs, like the second doors opened, and he like walked in. It's like just him, goofy, standing in the middle of the dance floor, like, you know, by himself. But like, that's amazing, and people notice that. Even like the biggest DJs in the world, if they're playing the first slot, like they're gonna notice that. I was at Seismic on Sunday with A-Trip, who's like a new friend of mine, and he opened the Tsunami stage. And so even though he's a much larger artist and like doing amazing stuff, like globally touring, he still started from zero because the doors weren't open yet. But those super fans, like, you saw them like running down the hill towards the stage, you know, and like he's gonna remember that because they showed up early. You know, they got their ass into gear. Oh, can I curse?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, they got themselves there. You know, they started getting ready 2 hours before the fest. They didn't blame it on the Uber line, and like, you know, they just got there. Like, no excuses. And so supporting is the easiest way to make a good impression and to add value. And you don't have to be able to like spin up a great conversation backstage or anything. Like, just show up and introduce yourself and be kind.
Be kind. I love that. And that is so true. And like, even just sharing a little bit of my own journey getting into the music scene here. I come from North Dakota, guys, like not a lot of music. And it was very similar for me. I just started showing up and meeting people and meeting artists. And then you and I met at a gig, and then we became friends. And it's a trickle down. So if you just like show up and be authentic and meet people where they're at, they're going to meet where you're at too. And they're going to love that you showed up. So I think that's huge. That's huge. So you're in Chicago. Okay, first of all, have you lived in the cold before?
No.
How has that been?
It's not cold yet.
Okay, it's not cold
yet. When I left, it was like perfect fall, like Midwest fall.
Yeah.
Like 50 and sunny every day. So that was awesome. And the summer was like literally perfect. It was so amazing. So leaving the Texas summer, going to the Chicago summer was ace.
Nice.
I know that it's going to suck the other way around, but yeah, I'll be all right. You know, I have boots and a coat, and I think I'll be fine. But
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I will report back after the winter's over and see how he's doing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this is super fun. So you got into the Austin scene before being in Chicago. Were you in Austin your whole life, or did you move here?
I've spent my adult life here.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in the Dallas area. I got an electrical engineering degree, actually, at Texas A&M.
Nice.
And then I moved here when I graduated.
Oh, cool. And what was your Austin experience when you moved here? How did you like it?
I loved it, yeah. It was definitely the only city at that point in my life that I had ever felt like a sense of patriotism towards. Like, you know, suburb of Dallas is like whatever. College Station was like not my vibe, but a good place to get a degree. And so, yeah, living in Austin was something that I was really proud of. And the community was a big part of that.
I love that, and I can see that now. What was your biggest challenge leaving this community to explore a new community?
I mean, there's always going to be a light sense of heartbreak when you leave people that you really care about. But honestly, like, I'm glad we left while we still loved it, because it makes it really exciting to come back. Like, I'm staying with 2 of my best friends over there, and they like didn't even blink when I asked if I could stay there for like 10 days. So yeah, it's great to have like a home base to come back to, a place that really does feel like home, and a place where, I mean, like all Seismic, like for 3 days straight, like every corner I turned, people were like giving me these big bear hugs and like, so excited to see you and stuff. And so while, yeah, it hurts a little bit leaving, it's not as if I can't come back like semi-regularly. Yeah. You know, I have this run of shows, like 6 shows this tour, and then I'm even coming back for 2 more in December. So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm here like quarterly.
Oh, I dig that. And that's so true. You know, like nowadays you can just travel and you can go back and you have home base. So you're doing a lot while you're here in this 10 days.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit about what your experience has been? Because you played Seismic, but you did some other things too.
Yeah, so I played a show at Reina with Secret Disco Society on Thursday before Seismic Eve. And then I played at Seismic on Friday at the Realm stage, which was really great fun. Doing this. Then there's this thing, Pitch a Friend, where people like give 2 to 4 minute PowerPoint presentations on their single friends. My buddy like launched that, and so I'm doing like basically background music for it tomorrow. Should be chill, but entertaining if you're into that. And then Thursday I'm doing Gas Station FM. It's like a film studio where they outfitted the whole thing to look like a convenience store, like, you know, wall of like potato chips and like refrigerator cabinets stocked with energy drinks and stuff. And they just they bring in DJs to play sets, and then they stream it on Twitch and then put the recording on YouTube. So it's like kind of goofy, but like a total vibe. So I'm doing that tomorrow from 7 to 8 if you want to tune in on Twitch or watch it on YouTube later at your leisure. And then the grand finale is I'm doing 5 hours at Community Garden on Saturday night, which is like the most charming little room in the world. It's like there's couches and like all this space to lounge, and they have like local electronic music, like records on the wall for sale, and there's a bunch of live plants everywhere. It's like so cute.
Oh my gosh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, how can people find that? That's all on your Instagram?
Yeah, that's all on
okay.
my Instagram.
Okay. Well, we'll get to contact later, but okay, kind of getting back into the music, you know, you started out in what would you start out in like house music, or what was your
Yeah, progressive house.
Progressive house. Now, how did you find your love of like getting into the UK garage or like different sounds?
I think just constantly exploring music. Like progressive house is definitely a like legacy genre, which is like not a bad thing. But if you look at the heroes of progressive house, they're all quite a bit older. You know, we're talking about like the Sashas and the John Digweeds and the Eric Pridzes. Like these guys are in their like 40s or 50s, right? So it's a amazing sound, and I still love to see it live, but I was kind of looking for something that was feeling a little more fresh to my ears, since I had dove so deep, and I feel like I knew almost everything there was to know about it. And I don't know, just like when you're protecting like cultural heritage of any kind, like innovation isn't rewarded as much as like loyalty to tradition, right? And so with progressive house, I feel like it was like intentionally not moving too far off course. So I was looking for something that was going to spice up my life a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And I really dig the sound that you have developed. And you've done some really cool things too with your music. You did some things with Neon Grotto, and you started up some community engagement. So can you talk a little bit about what you did at Neon Grotto? Birds of a Feather, correct?
Yeah, you got
it.
Yeah, so Birds of a Feather is my event series where I prioritize producers. So I only book producers for the Birds of a Feather series, and that's because traditionally in electronic music, especially at the local level, you're rewarded not only for your talents behind the decks, which is important, but you are heavily rewarded for who you know and how often you get out there. And so I wanted to do something that rewarded the people that spent their hundreds of hours like at home producing and writing music and learning their craft instead of going out and partying and making a bunch of friends. So Birds of a Feather was born. So it was a good run. We did a number of shows. We did some at the concourse on the patio. We did some Neon Grotto, some Coconut Club. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just brought in people. I encouraged them to play as much of their own music as they could. Like, don't feel like you got to play that ABBA remix or like whatever. Like, just, you know, rip your own tracks, play your unmastered stuff, play your unreleased stuff, and just like get that super valuable crowd feedback that you're probably longing to get, since they typically have less gigs than their party DJ counterparts.
That is true, because as a DJ and a producer, there's so much you have to divide your time to production work, and that adds like a layer. How have you found success in finding, like, creating a balance between producing and playing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's definitely a pendulum that swings. Like, I was producing quite a bit when I first moved to Chicago because I had no gigs. And then once those spun back up, I had like 4 gigs in October. So every weekend I was kind of preparing for a gig and then a lot of the time recovering from a gig. And so I was producing a lot less. So I think the important thing is just like trying to get really good about working in the margins. You know, there's not a lot of parties during the weekdays, so like be very disciplined about working during the week, and then you can kind of buy yourself the space to like go out and like see music or perform music on the weekends. But it definitely takes a lot of intentionality on like gating off your time, because it can be really hard to sit down and work like that.
That is true. That's something, I mean, as a creative, I struggle with time blocking or time, divvying out the right amount of time. So what do you use tools to help with that? Do you time block, or does it kind of, have you created a good rhythm for yourself?
I did for a while, because I mentioned earlier I studied electrical engineering, and I worked as like an engineering sales person for a company called NI for a number of years. And so I had all these corporate habits when I went full-time music that I tried to apply to the music world, but they've mostly all fallen off. Yeah. So for the most part, I just like try to wake up and like be disciplined on some sort of music activity until, I don't know, like 7 or 8 p.m. And that can be like filming content and editing it. That can be producing. That can be digging for music, whatever. It's like, as long as I'm like pushing the needle in the right direction, that's all that really matters to me.
Definitely. And one thing I noticed that you do really, really well is you are building up your content. You're putting things out there. And I know that's a place where artists can kind of struggle, is, putting content. I mean, I struggle too, is creating that cadence. So how have you found success in putting content out there, especially your Chicago, like new DJ in Chicago, new producer in Chicago series you've been doing on Instagram? How did you find success in that, or get that brain baby to come to life?
Yeah. I just try to like think of what would actually be fun to watch. I feel like a lot of people emulate what they see the big DJs doing, where it's like, a video from behind the DJ where you're like intentionally shaking the camera so you can't see that the crowd's like kind of thin. But you don't have to do what the big DJs are doing. You should think about what you want to represent and like what the people that care about you want to see. And so I knew that a lot of people were invested in how I was going to like land on my feet and like build back up in Chicago. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do like a little vlog series where I just talk about whatever like normal life stuff I'm doing on top of what I'm doing musically. It was probably like 50-50. And people loved it. Yeah, it did pretty well. I did 10 episodes for 10 weeks and then decided to kind of reprioritize my time since the gigs were starting to get booked at that point. But it was a really great experience. I got a lot better at video editing during that. And then, people seem to have liked them. Yeah,
I really liked it. It was a fun addition. And then it showed everybody your journey. Like, this is what he's doing this week, and this is how he's putting himself out there. Oh, he's at this club. Like, it was really fun to watch. So just like, just a fan over here. So looking at, community, you built a community here with Birds of a Feather. You engage in the local community. What's next for Chicago? How are you building community there? Are you working on projects, or what's next for you?
Yeah, I guess it's just continuing to play in new clubs and work with new promoters. I've got some like really exciting irons in the fire, I guess, in that sense. Like, there's these guys, House Calls, that do like really, really cool events. They just had John Summit play like a Portillo's, which is like a hot dog place.
That's dope.
Everybody like really liked that. But they also do a lot of really, really cool stuff at the local level. They do a Thursday night residency in this like really small lounge. It's probably only like 75 to 100 capacity. But the vibes in there were like insane. So hoping to do something with them soon. Continuing to work with Auris, which is like the big promoter that owns Radius and Cermak Hall and a number of other venues around the city. And then hopefully start producing with some other locals. Like, I opened and closed for A-Trip at a club called Smoke and Mirrors 2 Saturdays ago now. And I met this other guy, Lux Pro, that makes like really, really good like music, very similar to the kind of house that I'm into. So like maybe start kicking some ideas back and forth with him amongst some other good producers in Chicago. There's definitely way more producers at like a advanced intermediate level in Chicago than I feel like there were here. So I'm excited to like do more local collaborations.
Yes, let's dive into the Chicago house scene, because that is something that, there's a lot of artists out there, because Chicago is the birthplace of house music, correct?
Yep.
And tell me about that experience, because I know there's like a lot of different genres within like the electronic space, but how has it been being immersed in a house prevalent, or a house like very popular genre area?
Yeah, there's just a lot more opportunity, I'd say. There's way more clubs, especially small clubs. Like we have the Concourse, which is spectacular and like a world class venue. But something that we're really missing in Austin is, I'd say, clubs in like the 150 to like 300 capacity size. We have Kingdom, which is good, but I think we need a lot more than that. And Chicago has a ton of them where the sound's really good. The clientele knows that this is like a place you come to dance. And they do good bookings. So that has been really nice to see. And then there is also the like historic aspect. Like a lot of the legends are still there. Like Derek Carter plays like a Sunday residency at I get the 3 S bars mixed up. There's Spy Bar, Sound Bar, and Smart Bar. I'm talking about Smart Bar. So yeah, Derek Carter still plays like a Sunday residency at Smart Bar, which is like super cool. And you can find the legends like Terry Hunter and other people like that, like playing shows around town. And then the Warehouse, like the club that house music was effectively born from, has like, I don't know if it's like an organization representing them or what, but like they're kind of making a resurgence right now. They do a quarterly at Spy Bar. They just unveiled like a mural of like house music legends like painted in downtown Chicago and stuff like that. So there's like a lot more respect for the history of dance music there, which is something that until now I had really only seen in Europe, because I think in general, America kind of considers electronic music to be this like almost like a nuisance, like those party people, doing drugs and getting in trouble, staying up late. So it's really nice to see that.
I like that, the ode to the art and the craft. I think that's incredible. So another thing you mentioned, was it a hot dog stand or hot dog?
Yeah, Portillo's.
Okay, so how do you feel about, and I'm all for this, but how do you feel about like these micro events or these pop-ups in like coffee shops or like something like this? How do you feel that is going to influence how people take in dance music?
I think it's pretty cool for the most part. Yeah, I think there's like the live in-person events are special for sure. It's always fun to see music in an environment where you would not expect to be seeing music. I think that there's a lot of people that are doing these like destination like video DJ sets, like maybe over prioritizing that. Like again, when people think like, oh, what kind of content do I make? And they go on YouTube and like Circle is like doing something at like the Eiffel Tower. They're like, yeah, I'm going to do that on Mount Bonnell or whatever. Like it's cool, but I think that you would maybe better invest your time like learning to produce or something like that. But that's a total side tangent. In general, I think exposing more people to music in new spaces is always a good thing. And if you can do it in a way that piques people's interest more than a typical night at a club would, then you're going to like find new ears, right?
Definitely. I kind of look at it like the form versus function. You can have the idea, the form of it, but you have to have the functionality of it, like something that makes sense too. So I love that. Well, this has been a great conversation. I want to dive into our headliner hot seat questions.
Oh dear.
You're going to be just fine. So what is, let me think here. What's the first question I want to ask you for headliner hot seat? What is a hairy, audacious goal that you have as a producer?
I mean, maybe something around dream labels. Like, I would love to release on Ninja Tune. I think it's one of the most like forward-thinking labels in dance music. They release stuff from people that it's like definitely dance music and electronic focused, but has like a very, very strong like songwriting core and is like more interesting to listen to than a club tool. So look up Ninja Tune, everybody.
Ninja Tune.
Look up Salute's last album, True Magic. It's incredible.
I'm going to check that out right away.
Yeah. So yeah, working with people like Ninja Tune would be really, really great. And of course, there's like, dream venues and stuff like that. But yeah, I try not to think too far in the future. Yeah.
What is something like one of your biggest challenges that you faced as an artist, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge for my career has been finding a label or like release strategy that makes sense for the type of music that I'm into. Like I haven't been historically producing music that like fits a very specific mold of a label that I guess I have connections to. Like I'm friends with a ton of the people that release on Anjuna Deep, but I've never been writing like Anjuna Deep material, so I've never been able to like cash in on that per se. And so it's left me with a little bit of a drought for releases where I've been kind of waiting for like something to line up with the people that I can like get the ear of. But yeah, nothing has happened. So I look back and it's like, oh man, I haven't dropped anything in like 2 years, which is like a really long time. And that wasn't especially intentional, but working on a release strategy now for doing some self-release stuff. So just like when the game's not working for you, change the rules kind of thing. So it's like, okay, can't get to the gatekeepers, like can't find the label that's going to be the right fit to provide like marketing muscle for me. Like I can probably just do it myself if the idea is good enough. And self-releasing is like more and more prevalent in the modern music industry, as long as you're willing to take on all of the jobs that the labels typically do, which is like distribution and marketing and advertising. So yeah, I'm going to start moving that direction.
That's really awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And my final hot seat question is, what is one of the most crazy, epic things that you've encountered as an artist in the industry? It can be good. It can be ugly.
Crazy epic. This is like super recency bias speaking, but going to Seismic as an artist is always a really, really amazing experience because just by like walking through that one gate behind the concourse, you like go from like the GA experience to the backstage experience. And like, you know, the artists are walking around and there's like Taco Deli catering and like you just like kind of pull back the curtain on something that is like so complex, like a music festival, that it's really, really cool to see how it works. And you see the media teams running around and like figuring out who's going to cover what shot list and like all of the last second scrambles that they have to like resolve for some artists. Like I won't say who, but someone demanded like a giant disco ball like the day of, and they had to like call every club in Austin that had a disco ball to like hang it up, and like there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you would like never believe actually happens. And I've played 6 of the 7 Seismics that have happened, so have been able to witness that over the years as the festival gets bigger and bigger. And it's always just really incredible. I'm not sure I could ever do that festival as like GA now. Like
right.
I'm just like
you've
very
got the experience now.
Yeah, very used to being like on the inside of that one. But it gives you a lot of appreciation for the people that are like working to make these things happen, because a music festival, like, you know, it stings buying like a $300 ticket or whatever, but these are like immensely, immensely complex beasts. There's like security and there's bar staff and there's artists, like, you know, disclosure costs like multiple hundreds, thousands of dollars to book, and you know, stuff like that. So it's like it takes so much going right to create a music festival experience that's worth going to, and being able to see that firsthand is really inspiring.
Shout out to Seismic. They really do a good job over there with creating an epic experience. I went to my first one this year, and it was just so cool. I mean, just how they did it. I felt it was like just so well done, curated well, and like seamless would be a good word for them. So
Definitely. Very
thank
professional.
You.
Great team.
Thank you for sharing the hot seat questions. Before we get to our final question, how can people connect with you online?
Kai Castro Music, anywhere that you type in the names of things, Instagram, SoundCloud, etc., Spotify. I have a bunch of DJ sets on SoundCloud. If you want to listen to me mix, if you want to listen to stuff that I released in the past, that's all on Apple Music, Spotify, etc. I would recommend SoundCloud for now, or just Instagram if you want to keep up to date with the day-to-day and shows that are coming up.
Oh, definitely. Well, super excited. Yes, give Kai a follow. And for our final question today, what is most inspiring for you in music?
I think it's probably the community building aspect of it, because I look at everyone that I care about in my life, and pretty much everybody was met through music in some capacity. Like my best friends, I've met through like Eric Prydz fan clubs, like in years past when I used to be like really deep in that world. Again, Taylor and Myrtle, I met when I was booked to go to the Dominican Republic and DJ a like 5-day vacation, and met them there. And yeah, just like everything good in my life seems to come from music. And so I don't know what else I could ask for to like keep motivating me to like make my small mark on the industry and like release music that will enable other people to have similarly life-changing experiences.
Oh, well, I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. And speaking of community, y'all definitely give us a follow at Amplify EDM and give us a follow on YouTube at AMPEDCast to hear amazing stories like this from artists like Kai who are making moves in the industry. Thank you so much, Kai. It has been a joy to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Give him a round of applause.